our conversation today is going to be screen time and tech use in our kiddos, which is I've had many parents and almost every parent have this kind of, it's not an issue per se. I shouldn't say that it's bad or give it a bad name, but it is hard to navigate, especially with how accessible media use and tech use is these days. So I think times are changing. Screen time is any time spent with any screen. So TVs, computers, gaming devices, cell phones. Oh, okay, sorry guys. So any device that you're looking at, a lot of the times our kids use iPads, laptops, TVs. And with COVID-19, that really changed the landscape because we were all online. Every single thing that we did was online. Therapies, school, recreation activities, they all moved online. So people got more used to it. Kids knew how to use it better than they did before that. Um, so this renewed any concerns and about screen time and the impacts on children and family are, especially after COVID, that data is still coming out. And what we're seeing is there is a big increase in screen time use for kids. And there's with that comes the changing levels of physical activity or more sedentary behavior, and also sleep issues. Nearly all children are exposed to screens by the age of 2. We have the TV on in the background, or your mom, you're on a phone call, the pictures, the videos, everything's screen time. So, and they can average to about an hour a day. With kids, per se, from ages 3 to 7 up to 12 and over, YouTube dominates screen time. And this could be educational videos like Miss Rachel or The Wiggles. That's what I grew up with. Dora's one. Or it could be I just heard something the other day that a mom had mentioned that uh her kid really likes these ear ASMR videos of just like scratches on a nail board and things like that. Just YouTube is a wide multiverse of so many different things. So that's what we see. And mobile phone owners. I know that when my first phone was at the age of 14, but I just had a kid saying, "Oh, I can't wait to be 8 because I get a phone." So definitely differing times, things like that. So one of the questions that I saw when I was kind of building this was, first, let's look at the potential risks. What are the risks that blue light, if you haven't heard about it, our screens emit this blue light that affects our sleep cycles because it keeps us up. So that's why a lot of anybody you talk to with screen time will say keep your phone an hour before bed because that light keeps you awake. It also has shown to disrupt play and language development, um, and also increases central nervous system arousal because it increases stress in some kiddos. So what this means is if you're watching a show and you hear loud sounds or changing flashing lights, it's increasing their stress levels and things like that that may not have been increased without the use of screen. It's also linked to concentration difficulties in later childhood. Now, this is pretty new data, but there has been some links, and links don't necessarily mean causation. There just have been some correlations that with the increase of screen time use, there has been more concentration difficulties noted. It alters physical activity levels and the posture. Even me sitting right now, I'm sitting like up up here, my posture. I know I could be better, but that's just how our laptops are meant to be. If you've ever seen a kid hold an iPad, some hold it properly, others will not. So, and even in adults, the way that we use our technology has been linked to things like carpal tunnel or the need for more glasses because you're sitting so close to a screen. So it alters our physical activities and our levels and just our physical demeanor. And it has excessive screen time has been shown to poor quality of life and educational outcomes. Now, the cause of this, I tried what the paper had kind of talked about was the fact that with more screen time usage, kids are more distracted. So distraction's a big word. Because if you give a kid a laptop, it is recommended that certain sites are, we'll say, moderated, especially during school and work tasks, because there's too many things for distractions. And with education per se, laptops are actually a good thing. We recommend laptops and iPads to kids every single day because it helps them learn better. But it's all about the moderation. Everything in life is moderation. So is technology. So excessive screen time. So this is spending every time they're having a breakdown or an emotional outburst, your first and foremost thought is to let's give them a screen. That's excessive because that's not learning. They're not really gaining anything from that tech use. So those are the educational outcomes and poor quality of life. But it's not to say of course, too much of something, too much of a good thing can be bad. But not to say that there aren't ways that tech can be useful. Obviously, this depends on what type of content your kid is consuming. So if your kid is consuming hours and hours of what we call passive content. So passive content is things that they're not engaging with. It's like watching, the first thing that comes to mind is TikToks. TikToks, you can do something called doom scrolling, where can you guys hear me? Am I like cutting out or lagging or anything? Okay, no. So if you're doom scrolling where you're not really engaging, oh, you're not really okay, thanks. You're not really engaging with the material. You're kind of just like, okay, done with this one, let's move on to the next, let's move on to the next. And you're not retaining any information. That is passive content. Now you have active content, which is the exact opposite of that, where it could be the most simplistic way of exploring is Dora. Dora is active content because your kid has to listen, answer those questions, and then where like when I watch, I'm like, come on, Dora, it's right down there. Like you know where it is. But your kid doesn't know that. And I can tell from my personal experiences, I still remember things I learned with active content where I'm from Sri Lanka and there was this big huge movement towards English learners, kids learning English through active content. And it was these six different clay figures and they would sing and they would dance, but they would ask you questions and they would ask you to sing along with them or dance along with them. And a lot of my English, the way that I got better at it was with those active content. So obviously tech can be useful. The content you consume can be useful in early language and literacy. It also promotes positive racial attitudes and imaginative play. Maybe you've seen this kind of trend or change towards attitudes in our kids today, where they're more accepting, they're more helpful. I saw this wonderful video the other day of I think it was a like Fancy Nancy episode, if anybody knows that, where they had this whole episode of explaining autism to peers, which was I loved it. I was crying at the end of it. They had talked about how that kid with autism would things of the world differently and how they're different in the way that they think, but not different in the way that they are. And that's amazing. So that's a little child learning about the diversity that we have in our schools, and that is seen in schools today. Every time I come, the way that kids say no to their parents about saying certain things, or how their vocabulary has grown to include these things like, oh, I have I'm a little bit attention deficit, or I have some attention issues, like just things that they've learned from, online, which I think is really, really amazing. Um, It also really aids in information retention. This is something that's been researched through and through. When you put meaning to things that you're learning, you learn better. So what content that is active does is it provides meaning to certain things. Could be the cleanup song, right? Cleanup makes cleanup could be something, but when you put it into a song, kids kind of retain that better. Same thing with information with interactive media. It also encourages creativity through expressive language, music, and art. So many kids I've seen who's storyboarding ideas and writing, and they might have some difficulties with reading or writing, but necessarily when they have a story idea or they are given an iPad to make a story and make it move, they're doing amazing. So tech can be useful in that way. And we shouldn't ignore the fact that a lot of us use our tech to connect with others, and so do kids. So yes, gaming, online gaming, that's one way in making friends for some kids who might not be able to apply those skills in a very stimulating classroom. So just another avenue to explore. So there's benefits, there's risks. Now, as parents, I was talking this out with Tiffany, where she was like, it gets really overwhelming. There's so many things that are good, there's so many things that are bad. How do I really like handle that? And why is it all on me? Which, first off, I don't think anything should be all on you. Um, but I was hoping to give you something to go off of, and what I came up with was the four M's, not me. This was this was researched work, not me. But it was the four M's. So to kind of make the difference of consuming media that is good and educational and helpful to our children, you have to implement the four M's. You have to minimize, you have to mitigate, be mindful, and be modeling. This is something that most of you have heard before, but I think one thing that I'll go through each one in detail, and Tiffany, please join in because you're a parent, so I could be saying all this stuff and you're like, I don't have time for that. So let me know. So minimize. Minimizing is creating a routine around screen time use in the home. The research says that screen time should be less than 1 hour per day. Maintain and enforcing those screen-free times or days with family meal times and book sharing, having available other forms of entertainment. The big thing here is when creating these routines, I find that saying you can go on your phone from you can go on your phone from 5 to 6, but nothing before that and nothing after that. Saying that I don't think is sometimes just enough because they need to understand why was what the research was saying. If that's why that make it collaborative is there. It's not that you're being collaborative to create a screen time of screen time use. At the end of the day, you're the parent, they're the they're the child, so there is that authority that should be there, but it's the fact that you explain to them why that's the case. Why are you putting these rules around screen time? And why are they allowed to go on some sites, but it's not on others? So just having a very brief conversation. A lot of the research, at the end of the day, if you take anything, it's that conversation and open conversation around screen time use with your kids makes a world of a difference than putting those rules in place without having that honest and open conversation. And yes, they're little, but they understand. And it's shown to kind of an example that I can give is I was never allowed to go on a sleepover, but I always understood why because my mom and dad sat me down and said, "This is why. This is why we have that rule in place. And do you have any questions?" And we had asked them like multiple questions. And they had answered each one very openly. And at the end of the day, they said, "It's our rule. We're not going to change it, but here's why we're doing it." So minimizing kind of works that way. Do you have anything to add there, Tiffany?
I think that was what I like about your description is that you can actually apply that to any hobby. So if somebody is into playing the violin, for example, you wouldn't want to spend 20 of your hours a day doing that one thing. So I found that helpful talking to my kids about balance. that you
Right.
can have, you need to have a variety of things in your day. And so screen time is one of them.
Yes, exactly. And then so minimize and then you mitigate. Mitigate is a little bit more about what you can do together. So be present and engaged when screens are used. Now, I didn't realize that when I had said that, that's not being over their shoulder 24/7 because who has time for that? No, it's just making sure that there's rules set in place for how they consume content and why. So they're not anything that's bad, like anything that you hear that's bad, or they think, oh, this, I don't know whether mom or dad might like me doing this. Ask them to tell me, like, come to me and ask. Don't, no need to hide anything. That's being present and engaged. And even in a car, I find that a lot of parents use um, tech in a car, which is clearly understandable. But even in a car, if there's a song going on, oh, let's sing that together. Just, you're still being engaged and being present. Um, Co-viewing is really good to help build that media literacy that and safety around that. So, what's real and what's make believe? A big issue these days is social media and how kids are choosing to view their body and how they and the dysmorphia that they have built around that. That a major source is social media and technology. So introducing what's real, what's make believe, and this could be done using simple YouTube videos, and explaining that some videos might only show happy moments of a certain person, or the most if they're having toys bought to them every single day, that's because they're being sent to them for free. They're not buying that. And when people buy that, that's pricey. So kind of just going real and make believe, that's mitigating. Not eliminating, but really reducing parenting strategies that rely on screen-based media. Um, and if that is what you can do at the moment, that's okay. I don't think I would ever say mm, no to that. But if that is your first, that is what you think first when a kid is crying or angry or mad, then that's where the issue kind of arises there. Um, and something that I found, curating and monitoring their media. So especially for tiny kids, YouTube videos, you can create playlists. So going ahead of time and creating playlists that is safe media, that then you don't have to be on them 24/7 or oh my God, I don't know what they're watching. YouTube Kids is also like just media around this like that have those kid things in place. Um and respect for their digital identity. So if this is a major problem, especially with social media moms and dads out there nowadays, where you're posting your child and they will grow up and they will look back. That's their digital identity. We don't need to know every single thing about your child without their permission. This is once again back to that point of treating your kid as being able to have the notion that they are able to make the decision to be in a picture or not be in a picture. Now, this is not a family picture, but if you, I saw the other day that mom had posted a, a video of the kid crying, having a major meltdown. Now, I felt really, if that was me, and in my grown age, somebody had taken that of me, put it on the internet without me asking for that, I would feel really mad. Now, give the same kind of courtesy for your children as well. So instilling that respect, asking, can I post a video of you online? Or hey, I really like this picture that we took. Can I post it? Because I think my friends would really like that. That's just easy like that. So just kind of building those, and that is not good, just good for now, but it's good for later as well because they're thinking of, oh, do I want this out there? Do I not want this out there? So it's building that media literacy in a way that you've kind of instilled in them.
Can I throw
Um,
a word in here, Nathani? I actually was thinking about how, um, so I have teenage kids, and honestly, the biggest fights come up around online stuff. And I've learned to try not to get my back up because it gets their back up, and coming in with curiosity. Hey, what do you like about this YouTuber? What is it about their videos that you like? I'm curious. I wonder how they're paying for all those things, and just asking questions to get them critically thinking about it, as opposed to coming in with my judgment, which may be on my face at the same time, but at the same time, just asking questions to learn more about it. I have found a very helpful strategy to avoid the conflict there. Okay, that's my tip.
Thank you. And then be mindful, conduct like a self-assessment of your own screen habits, and develop a media plan. I'll go over that in a little bit. I'm so sorry, I'm in a school. You're gonna hear kids. Yeah. So shared family media use is always going to be better than solitary media use, especially for younger kids. Encouraging older kids to help mentor young children so that you're not having to do that twice or thrice. Too much screen time means lost opportunities for teaching and learning. That could happen in the home, because teaching and learning happens everywhere, as we know. And selecting content from quality, non-commercial sources. So minimizing exposure to advertising. And what I mean by that is some websites it'll be the safest website, but their ads are completely inappropriate. And that's still being taken in as well. So being very mindful of what websites are okay to use and having that conversation as well. And with being mindful, one thing that I will have to say is your consumption of media will be reflected in your child's consumption of media. If you are listening to them, to put the like, and you get a phone call and you pick up the phone and they're mid-sentence, they will know that, they will understand that, and they will take that in, and that will be part of their use with tech use. So that's where you're being mindful. Like, I'm having this conversation with my child. Yes, it's been going on for the past 20 minutes and they haven't gone to the point, and they will ramble on a little bit more. And so maybe kind of directing conversation would be the best way I would say, but still not being engaged. And this is something that I just learned. I was listening to this podcast, infants are also affected by your tech use. So if you are smiling with a baby and you are you're like doing your googly googly like baby talk and smiling, and you suddenly stop and you're taking a picture because they're acting really cute, that they will stop smiling back at you, because it's the same as you smiling and your face kind of going numb or going back to like a normal resting state. And this is like really fascinating research. I find infant research to be really cool. But even at that young age, the way that you react to media and the way that you react to your child really impacts their growth and their understanding of how that should be. So, and then also once I kind of went over this, so paying attention to the messages about gender, body image, violence, diversity, and social issues that you want your child to learn at that age, being mindful of that. If you want them to know what's going on in the world, what certain terms are, go ahead. But if you don't, then being more mindful of those things. And then modeling. This is literally, if you're putting screen time limits on them, even acting like you're putting those limits on yourself, being present and engaged, using screens in creative and healthy ways, and for car rides, like mixing it up. You know, you can do car karaoke by creating like a car karaoke playlist or I Spy, and setting aside tech free time. And during that tech free time, having like activities put in place, or even that's fine. And even just having tech free time where you don't have anything planned. So that the idea isn't when I'm not doing something, I'm on tech. No, it's that we can have free time without tech involved, without having activities involved. So kind of creating thoughts around that, and take breaks and move around and things like that. Now, my last thing here to share is the family media plan. This from the Institute of Child Psychology. I think this is really, really good because it talks about values, goes through a really, so here it's about values to guide your media plan. So what's important to your family? How are you, so with your children, with your whole family, identify the values, the activities that matter, the goals and the experiences of which you want to actually pay attention to, and then prioritize. What do we prioritize? Do we prioritize our academics, our sports, our passion, like our habits? Are we wanting more quiet time? And on what days are there going to be more of something and less of something? And what days are going to be more tech days and not tech days? And um, so things like that. And so there's like the recreational time per day, saying each person's name, how many minutes per day of screen time. So if dad gets more screen time than the kids, why is that? Well, dad works from home. So obviously, to make money, dad would have to be on a screen for most of the day. So having that conversation, and screen-free zones. So kitchen, table is a screen-free zone. If we're in the living room is a screen-free zone, unless you're just it is your screen time. So kind of making really clear boundaries around that. Screen curfews. If you are a parent who does not allow phones in the bedroom, then when do those phones come down? Usually like saying like at 9 p.m. phones are here and we have a little family time and then we go to bed, kind of things like that. And that so commit to weekly tech talks. Now that sounds like a lot because you can only talk about something for so little time. But having like I think one thing that really works is social skills talks and things like that. So just around those topics of like how do we handle friendships, what's a healthy friendship, what's not. So maybe ongoing conversations on that. It doesn't need to be weekly, but I thought that was really cool that they had those like set up side times to talk about something that, might not come up naturally. I thought that was like a really cool thing to do. Safety, this is where like creating that open space will make them easier for them to actually reach out to you if need be. Anything other, and everybody has a sign, and this can stay in your fridge or on your not in your fridge, on your fridge magnet, so everybody knows that we have created a plan, and this plan has been created together. So this is not mom and dad or mom or parent and comes in with this all filled out. No, we sit around a table, fill it out together, and we have this set in place from this day forward, kind of thing. Okay, that is all I had for this. So I will, oh, and I do have some, any questions? That's my question, but I do have some resources, and these slides will be shared with you. I really do think that listening to Dr. Becky at Good Inside, she's a good resource. She really knows how to balance between being not a strict parent, but a parent who's strict on boundaries they create versus being a parent that is able to have that conversation and make it collaborative. I think she does a really good job at that. So give her a try. But that's all I have for today.